Hello and welcome to Series 2 of The Joy of Writing. I'm your host, Mark Carew. In this series I will be talking to authors about the fun, the satisfaction, the joy they get from their writing, whether it's prose fiction, narrative non-fiction or poetry. In this episode I'm talking with Andy McDonnell again. We hear about life after publication of the Somnambulist cookbook last year, and we also discuss the effect of the COVID-19 lockdown on the creative process. So Andy, your first collection of poems, the Somnambulist cookbook, came out last year in June. I imagine that was a great event in your life?
It was. It is kind of a strange thing. I mean, you kind of, as a writer, you're sort of thinking about that first book. I mean, I've been thinking about that first book for, I guess, about 20 years. I mean, I kind of sat on this collection for the best part of a decade, moderating it, changing bits, taking things out, and so on. Mainly because, life had happened. I'd had 2 children. That kind of took precedence. I was running a small press. My professional life was kind of gearing up elsewhere in education. Mm-hmm. So poetry became sort of secondary. So when it eventually arrived, it was a wonderful feeling, and it's still, I still look at it and can't quite believe it. It's a bit like children. You kind of look at your children and think, is that really like a small version of me? Books are a bit like that. They're kind of like a small version of your subconscious and darker moments, I guess. But yeah, I think it's extraordinary feeling to have a book. Have a thing. Someone said to me, that's something you've made, and it hadn't kind of, that hadn't occurred to me. I thought, yeah, that's true. That's a lovely way of looking at it. That you crafted something, even if it's read with a handful of people, or if a book comes a bestseller, the fact is still you made something is a great feeling.
It is. It's a very powerful feeling, isn't it? So that you can actually hold something tangible in your hands and say, I made this. I mean, that is a very strong emotion indeed. And how did you get on with sort of all the post-publication events and readings and that type of thing?
Well, it coincided with my press celebrating their 20th anniversary. Mm-hmm. So Salt had lined up a few events. The first one was actually in May 2019 at Dragon Hall, part of the Norwich and Norfolk Festival. And that was great because we were in this kind of 13th century merchants' hall or Dragon's Hall off King Street in Norwich. So in this amazing venue, the acoustics are amazing, and there was a great turnout. It was a really lovely event. So it had this kind of sort of double celebration of myself and 3 other writers that shared the stage publishing their books, plus the fact that Salt, for an independent publisher, had been around 20 years, which is impressive.
Yes, it really is.
Given the climate. So we did that event. I did a personal event in a bar I used to work in the city centre in Norwich, and I had some bands play live. That people in those bands have supported me over the years, and me them. I had kind of people from Friendship Circle that were writers come along and read their work. So it was a kind of a proper party, and that was lovely. And that was on a Sunday night. So there was just punters roaming in as well. So strangers roaming in, looking quite terrified by the idea of poetry. But yeah, it was lovely. So we did these events. I did an event through my place of work, the university centre where I work. We had a kind of launch there as well. So lots of little things. And lots of avenues. And then I've done kind of readings here and there, and I've got some readings booked up in the year. We did Aldeburgh Festival. That again was with Salt for their 20th anniversary.
Nice, okay. Nice
and Aldeburgh was great fun.
Yeah, it was great fun. And public speaking, I imagine for a poet, is just second nature.
Yeah, I mean, never used to be. I used to kind of be filled with abject terror when I was younger. But there is something about it that over the years has become oddly enjoyable. And I think because I'm in teaching is performance anyway, so it becomes second nature. You almost kind of go in persona. What I tend to do is start with a song. So I use this old Scots lullaby,
right.
and I don't announce it. I just sing it, and it's quite a nice way of just settling a room.
Yeah.
It's this kind of very haunting lullaby, and it just suddenly kind of, you see everyone just kind of sit back,
Yes.
and then launch into a poem. So there's a kind of performative element to it as well.
Yeah, lovely idea. I mean, I did some, and I like to stand up and do it, and properly declaim it from the stage, not sit down at the desk. I've had enough for sitting down at the desk. You mentioned that you get into sort of persona.
I think it's a sense of that when you think about poetry as song, which I do, I tend to think of it as lyrical and as song-like.
Yeah.
There is there's a school of poets that will deliberately be anti-performance, and they will read very dryly and very monotonely and so on. And that's kind of an intellectual decision. I kind of like the performative aspects of it, in the sense that the poems can create a atmosphere, a musical atmosphere. So I kind of think, well, that there's a way that they can be read almost in character.
Yes.
The narrator is not me. The narrator is like would be in fiction, somewhere else or somebody else. So often when I'm reading or practicing reading, I want to try and find the voice that I've written it in, which is often different to the voice that's spoken out loud.
And these voices or personas, they're different for each poem, or you have several you can choose from that are appropriately?
I think they're different. I think that sometimes, I mean, this might sound confusing, that they're the same but different, in the sense that...
No, that's perfectly understandable.
Sometimes I think as well that we take for granted our own personalities, that we are so sure of who and what we are.
Okay.
And I think actually what's going on at the moment with lockdown has probably challenged a lot of people in terms of who and what they are. We're suddenly we're spending a lot of time with ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's kind of an interesting thing. So I think there is a sense sometimes with characters as well that there's this that they're one person in one poem, and it may be the same narrator, but then somebody else, depending on what they're talking about and who they're talking to.
So they're the same but different in the way of, you see a different side of yourself, different facet of your character and personality coming out in these things.
Yeah, or possibly things from the unconscious, subconscious, that you hadn't kind of expected. I mean, one of the things that I'm finding particularly at the moment is that I'm finding, because I'm not having that many new experiences, when I go out into the world, there's all these different random permutations of things that can happen. I commute to Peterborough, so there might be a random incident on the train, there might be a random incident I'm walking on the street, and all these different things happen, and then I go to sleep, my subconscious deals with all those things. During lockdown, it's a bit like, again, you're spending much more time with yourself. I'm finding that I'm thinking about events and decisions I made, say in 1992 or 2003 or something, and these things are coming up from my memory as if my unconscious is kind of going, well, hang on a minute, I need to go through the drawers and get rid of stuff, or I need to paint the front door, or I need to do the backyard, a bit like I'm doing physically. So I think there's this strange thing of the unconscious mind at work, finding and discovering or remembering things or misremembering things that then become poems or whatever. So I think there's those connections. I think there's the sense with all writing that it's coming from somewhere else. I don't mean a magical place, but a sense of somewhere else in terms of things that maybe aren't in a conscious mind.
So a place where things are normally hidden from you and might influence you literally unconsciously.
Yeah, I think this the strange thing of living in both kind of a visual and sort of individual culture, where 1 minute we are seeing things visually, but we're arriving at them with all our wealth of experience and ideas, and how they can trigger things or alter things, perhaps. That's what I like as a writer, and that's what I like in terms of performance as well. The sense that you're then bringing back these things, these different elements that may or may not connect.
Yes.
But certainly when they're together, they have an accumulative power, which I think was what a poem is.
Right. And lockdown is going to have a great effect on people, creative people. I mean, we just wait for the slew of COVID-19 virus novels. I mean, there's enough of them out there anyway.
Boris Johnson's father, yes.
You're right, yes. So I was thinking, so lockdown has sort of brought you up and sort of shown you a different side of yourself in the mirror. Do you think you'll have that influencing you in the work you produce now?
I mean, it has been this week. So I was talking to my other half. She writes and she reads a lot, and we're both sort of talking about the fact how hard it is to read. I really struggle to sit down with a novel and actually pay attention. I just seem to feel like there's constant, low-level anxiety there in the background. I mean, actually, I would say not that low level, really. So I think as a writer, what's starting to happen is this week I've started to write a series of what I call devotion or devotional poems.
Yeah.
That are kind of around a kind of sense of trying to grasp at these things that are coming up from the unconscious. I didn't want to write just about lockdown or the virus or because I felt that's too on the nose for me for my own craft. It's not something that I want to explore. But what I'm getting instead is this sense of, after a few months of this, that other things are coming up, and I'm suddenly, the last few days I've written something like 12, 13, 14 poems, prose poems that are different devotions. So devotion as, I think one's called Devotion as a battleship off the coast of Scotland, Devotion as a care home in Wilmington. So there's suddenly all these kind of random poems that are kind of focusing on these various memories and oddities of life, which is really exciting. I don't know if they're going to work yet, but
very much. I mean, so no shortage of creative power.
No, it's coming through. I mean, I was really worried for about 2 months. But then I remembered that and I don't know, this may sound familiar to you, but I kind of feel that, I kind of think about it in terms of a vessel. So I feel like I'm filling up.
Yes.
And then it just spills over.
Yeah.
And I can't write every day. I'm not that kind of writer.
Yeah.
I'm someone that kind of, it comes in fits and bursts.
Yeah.
And you almost can feel it coming on. It's kind of a weird thing, like it's like some sort of storm rumbling in, and you're just going to have a few days of intense writing, and then it disappears for a couple of weeks again.
I imagine it as the well of inspiration.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it is a container that fills up with something, and then you can empty it and produce. You can write a few things, and if you keep emptying it too often, then you have to wait for it to fill up again. Yeah,
there's a lovely essay by Tom Gunn about that, where he talks about sort of the idea of doing a raid on your unconscious and coming back with booty. You come back with these treasures, and they may not make sense as a whole, but the fragments of them together create something, and that's kind of a lovely idea. But yeah, it's that feeling of it's a really strange one, and I think I have to remind myself, if I feel blocked, the reason I'm blocked is that it's because I'm processing, so I just need to wait and be patient, and it will happen again.
I was very influenced by what Stephen King wrote in his book on writing about the boys in the back room.
Okay.
So if you're stuck anywhere in whatever you're writing, just send a message to your unconscious and say, look, let me know what the answer is in the morning, would you?
Yeah.
I mean, that always works. I think it's amazing, and he's obviously tapped into that.
Yes.
From the reaction to Somnambulist Cookbook, was there anything more more poems you'd like to write in a particular style or a particular subject? Anything that went down so well you thought, I'll do some more of those?
Yeah, there was something that's quite odd. So I work in Peterborough, and I run a kind of evening there, a kind of literary events. And we had, I can't remember which poet it was. We had some poets come over to Peterborough to read. And one of the audience members said, I was at University of Nottingham, and the stanza group there have picked your book. And I was really amazed. I thought that's lovely. So suddenly there was this little group over in Nottingham, that were reading my poems, which was a really lovely thing. So I got in touch with the guy and said, this is great. I'm really touched they've chosen it. Really happy to answer any questions. But he came back and he said, oh, some people said it was a bit like it was a kind of English psychedelia running through it, in kind of in the sense of the Beatles and Samuel Beckett.
Yeah.
Now Beckett, I've not read much of, but I kind of like his kind of difficult, weird stuff that he does. But I'm not a massive fan of the Beatles, so I kind of found that really interesting because my sister used to play them so much. She kind of killed them for me when I was younger. But what it did tap into was something that I have been interested in, which is this kind of English kind of weird psychedelic pastoral oddness, and I try and kind of pin that down a bit more. So there's really fascinating things around something called hauntology, so stuff like ghost box records, this sense of trying to understand these lost futures. That's one element that's interesting, and it's been something I've been working on without really understanding until recent years. That was what I was working on. So poems like Those Dark Aunts in there, for example. So the devotional pieces, I'm kind of playing with that a lot more, and taking in sort of some of the what we might call more pedestrian things of British culture.
Right.
So one of the new poems I've written is about the fact that my auntie was in a care home in Wilmington in Dartford, and there was a guy there that always sang Christmas songs all the time of the year, but also it's a place where Mick and Keith met, in Dartford. So there's this kind of odd thing of singing, and the Dartford warbler, which is this bird, and all these things suddenly connecting together into this strange kind of amalgamation of what I would term kind of slightly weird, wonky English psychedelia. So I'm kind of interested in that sort of that kind of element to it, and trying to bring disparate things together, under one roof in each poem, and seeing where that takes me, essentially.
I mean, it sounds like you got that creative skill of linking disparate elements together.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I mean, that's very kind of you to say. I mean, I'd like that to be the case. People feel that.
I'm sure it is.
I was touched by a writer called David Berman, who was a singer in a '90s band called Silver Jews, and he wrote a book of poetry called Actual Air. Sadly, he took his life last year. He was 51, but he wrote these amazing poems, and when I read them, I just thought, that's it. That's kind of what I've been trying to express, and it was just really fascinating to think that there is this generational thing, perhaps, of people writing this way. I mean, I see it in the work of, say, like a Faber poet like Sam Riviere, and then many others. This kind of sense of something weird about culture and the signs in our culture, and the way they can be sort of reinterpreted and thought through and tackled. That to me is really fascinating. But I mean, David Berman is an extraordinary, or was an extraordinary songwriter as well as poet.
Wow. I mean, sounds like you were having no problem with writer's block.
Yeah, I think
the well of inspiration is overflowing.
Well, I meant to be doing a load of fiction for PhD, and I've got a supervisory meeting tomorrow, and I haven't actually done what I was meant to do, so I'll probably get in trouble for doing the wrong thing, going off on a different tangent. But yeah, I mean, it's fits and starts. I do get blocks. The ideas are there. It's sometimes the sitting down to actually get them to work.
Get it going, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I think you can do it too early. I think there's sometimes a sense that if you try and write too early before the process has worked through, you can end up sort of misfiring a little. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always a need to rush. You could just leave it to stew. It'll work itself out.
Yeah, it's there's a kind of advice that you hear again and again in workshops, and it's one I use when I'm teaching. The idea of you write something and leave it in the drawer.
Yes, absolutely.
A couple of months or however long it takes.
Yeah.
And actually that is really good advice.
Yeah.
That is really good advice. And I think it's always interesting to come back to poems or any kind of writing later.
Yeah.
Because you can often then what you've lost is that initial excitement of the fact of I've written something, kind of chasing your tail in excitement. I think you can see it in a much more clear-headed way, can't you, later? Much more objective way.
Absolutely, objectively, fresh eyes. Fantastic. That's excellent advice. This is a great education for me, and I hope for other people as well. Terrific to hear how the creative process works for you. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Andy. In the next episode, Andy McDonnell has advice for aspiring writers based on his own experience of teaching creative writing, and he tells us about a collection of poetry that he found influential.